Go ahead and start this off. First question is kind of a serious question. Who would win in a fight between Oliver Tate and Doogie Howser?
Right. How old was Doogie Howser at the start? Wasn't he quite young?
I believe
about 12.
It's like 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just on age, I suppose. Oliver would.
Would take him down?
Well, a 12-year-old, surely, versus a 15-year-old.
All right. So,
Sorry, I'm a real health nut, as you can see.
no, it's all good. We're at Sundance and
Yeah.
having a good time. So this is your first feature. Talk about how you got attached to the project. Did you seek out to adapt it, or did it come to you?
It came to me because Walk Films optioned the book, and somebody who worked at Walk went to college with Joe Duncan, the writer.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and I'd done some music videos with him, so
Yeah.
it came through that.
Okay, fantastic. Easy
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Talk about how you found your Oliver Tate, because he's just like perfect for that kind of humor and role.
Well, initially I imagined that the character would probably be like Joe was when he was young, a mini version of Joe, who is very dissimilar to Craig, and it was just a long trawl of auditions and seeing a number of people, and we did a number of auditions with him. We did a screen test with Craig and Yasmin, and
Mm-hmm.
I think Yasmin's really very good.
Mm-hmm.
And, just luck,
Yeah.
because retrospectively it's sort of unthinkable
Yeah.
without them, but
Just
yeah,
like
just good luck.
Good luck. Good
Yeah.
luck's good to have.
Yeah.
What I've seen when trying, I guess, with British films, when they're trying to market to a U.S. audience, there's always this stereotypical British characters. But in Submarine, from what I've seen the movie, and I had a friend from the UK. We talked about it, and she said you nailed the British family upbringing like perfectly.
Right.
And so, were there any pressures to market to a U.S. audience?
No, none. I mean, there's no guarantee that it would ever come out in America at all.
Yeah.
There was no thought about that, and I don't know what you would do differently if you had that as a concern.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think if you deliberately set out to in some way accommodate people, their sales resistance goes up. You can sniff someone trying to
Absolutely.
sell you something, and I mean, someone trying to sell you something generally hasn't got something good to sell.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so, I mean, that's kind of the contradiction, I suppose, with ever talking about a film, is that it's impossible for me to recommend this film because I'm the last person who should be trusted at all on any matter regarding this film.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this interview with Harmony Green on the Letterman show,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd just done his crack up at the race ride.
I saw that. It was the second interview, right?
Yeah. And it was amazing, and it was one of those sort of Letterman interviews where they go, oh, look at this kind of whacked out kookster, and everyone's laughing, and they're kind of close-ups, and it's Dave Letterman going, and being funny as he often is, but he was just talking about the book, and he couldn't sell it. He just couldn't really do that, and said, I couldn't recommend it. And there was a huge laugh, and Dave Letterman, as though it's the most anathema thing to do, to not say what you've done is great and ought to be purchased.
Yeah.
As though that's an act of insanity worth gales of laughter. And I remember watching it just going, this is the thing that is going to make me watch every film he does, and I thought I genuinely can understand why he feels that he can't recommend it, but simultaneously is actually on that show. You know? And although they seem like completely oppositional positions,
Yeah.
I went, yeah, I can. That is completely how I feel. You sort of feel, oh well, you probably ought to, you know, say something about it. But when it comes to it, it's very hard to, you know, flaunt your wares.
Absolutely. It's funny that you brought him up. I interviewed him for Trash Humpers.
Oh yeah, weirdly enough, my brother-in-law and now sister-in-law produced that film.
Nice.
And yeah, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I put it in my top 10, and when I interviewed him, he turned the interview around, and the whole interview was him drawing a poster, or drawing a poem on a chalkboard,
Yeah.
and just talking about the poem. That's the whole interview.
Yeah.
And it was just so
Yeah, it's
perfect. So a lot of people, or most people, like to put things in a box, and
Yeah.
this is being compared to Wes Anderson films,
Mhm.
which is, I think, is great.
Mhm.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I love Wes Anderson films. I think he's great. I think the more likely reality is that I imagine the films we both like are similar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there are certain things that are in the cultural Rolodex at one time, and so no one would particularly talk about The Ice Storm, which to me is big an influence on this, or even Flirting with Noah Taylor, or you know, a number of other films like Show Me Love, that Lucas Moodysson film, and I think because there are so few filmmakers with a very distinctive style, which he has, he has become a very easily name-dropped thing for a certain sensibility.
Yeah.
In a way that people no longer say, oh, well, this is very like Mike Nichols, which it clearly is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Wes Anderson is pretty clearly an admirer of Mike Nichols, but no one will say, oh, that's really very like The Heartbreak Kid. You know, that's very like how Charles Grodin is in that, because it's no longer in the cultural Rolodex.
Yeah.
And so it's weird. Like, I gave this example earlier today about this band My Bloody Valentine. When they came out, everyone said they really liked the Jesus and Mary Chain because they used feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly now, you know, they're so dissimilar.
Yeah.
And I remember reading an interview about them saying that it becomes so odd that you end up trying to distance yourself from a band that you really like, and there was never, you know, but it's very hard to know what to do with this as information, because you go,
Yeah.
maybe. I mean, I suppose Rushmore has a precocious person of this age who's articulate in one respect, but to me, I mean, I think Rushmore's perfect. I think it's a completely perfect film. It's a really good film about friendship and a love triangle in a way, but really, it's like a Howard Hawks film to me. It's like a great sort of male love story between, you know, Schwartzman and Bill Murray's. I mean, and that to me is what's great about it. It's not primarily a romantic story between a boy and a girl. It's, you know, whereas this is in a way.
It's funny. I after I saw it in Toronto, I was like telling us, you've got to see this. You know, whenever it gets festival by you and released. And they're like, what would you compare it to, or how would you describe it? And I was telling everyone that it's like if Harold and Maude met in high school.
Right.
This is their story.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Harold and Maude too, although oddly I found it hard to get into when I first watched it.
Yeah.
But again, what's so great about that is it's just about death, you know, and it's just, and it's odd, the things that, in a way, for me, it's quite good, it being compared to Wes Anderson, because people who like Wes Anderson, I imagine, or I think people who like Wes Anderson have good taste, because I think Wes Anderson's great.
Yeah.
And so you hope if people like Wes Anderson, at least that's one good thing they like. It's not like
Absolutely.
if you love Tron, you will love, because you go, I'm not sure this is the kind of people who are going to like this. But, it'd be great if someone said, that about any filmmaker who was good, if you really like Bogdanovich,
Yeah.
in the, like The Last Picture Show, or was another, thoughts
Right on.
in regards to this. So, yeah.
Cool.
But in a way, more Noah Baumbach, in a way. I mean,
Yeah.
I think in a way it's good that people are saying Wes Anderson, because it probably disguises how much it's ripped off Squid and the Whale in other respects.
Well, I mean, you did a fantastic job. It was my like when we did our top tens on the site. I put it as my favorite movie, even though it's not released yet. But it's definitely like I fell in love with it. I mean, that's when I was begging Brandon. I was like, please get me a one-on-one interview with him.
Well, thanks. Well, in fact, I mean, the film that was most, in some respects, there were two films that I've sort of said before, were Badlands and Taxi Driver.
Mm-hmm.
But Billy Liar, in a way, was, because, again, it's a film that, I don't know, doesn't really get mentioned very much, or people, as a director, John Schlesinger doesn't really get mentioned very much anymore. I don't know why. They're just, I don't know. I suppose because he's not an adjective yet, and in a way, Wes Anderson, he is amazing, but he has become an adjective, which is a very simple way to denote a certain type of thing. But I think what's interesting about his films is, I think they're so well written, his films, and because he has such a particular way of viewing it, I think sometimes it allows people to too readily dismiss what he does. But I think he's very good. But that's a problem. It's like films being described as Lynchian. It's just because it's an adjectival term now.
Yeah. Cool.
Whereas people can't really say, oh, it's... Yeah, it's like, you can say it's like Cecil B. DeMille, because people know what that denotes, but you can't really say it's Lindsay Anderson-like. It just isn't an adjective yet, despite, I mean, who could have a more strong voice than Lindsay Anderson?
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Cool. Awesome, man.